So today we'll talk about something called as backup and site recovery, right? So in Azure, there is an option to take the backup, right? Now, whenever we are trying to take a backup, we need to use a service called as recovery service vault. So with the help of a service called as recovery service vault, we would be able to take a backup. Let's see it here. So we need to use a service called as recovery service vault. In short, we call that as RSV. In short, we refer it as RSV, recovery service vault. Right. Now, when we go to the recovery service vault, see, first of all, we have to create a recovery service vault. Let's say we are creating a recovery service vault in RG1, which is in East US, and we are creating a recovery service vault in East US, right? So once we create a recovery service vault, we will see two options under it. One option is we will see an option for the backup, and one option is ASR. ASR is Azure Site Recovery. So first we will talk about backup, and then we will talk about site recovery. So when we go inside the recovery service vault, we will see two options. We can take a backup with the help of that, and we can do a site recovery with the help of that, right? If we click on the backup, it will ask us, where is the workload running? Whatever we are trying to backup, where is that running? Are we trying to backup something from Azure, or are we trying to backup something from on-premise? It also gives us an option for the Azure stack. In Azure Stack, it also gives us an option for the Azure Stack Hub and Azure Stack HCI. Right? It also gives us an option to use Azure Stack Hub and Azure Stack HCI. But since we are not discussing Azure Stack in this particular course, we will keep the discussion to on-premise and we will keep the discussion to Azure. Right? So if we click on backup, it says, hey, where is your workload running? Are you trying to backup something from Azure, or are you trying to backup something from on-premise? If we say that we are trying to backup something from Azure, it will give us four options. From Azure, we can backup the Azure VMs. The virtual machines that we create in Azure, we can take a backup of those virtual machines with the help of this. From Azure, we can take a backup of the Azure file share. The file share that we create inside the storage account, we can take a backup of that. We can also take a backup of the SQL Server hosted in Azure VM. We can also take a backup of SAP HANA hosted into Azure VM, right? So these are the four things that we would be able to backup. So these are the four options we get. Now, if we say that we are trying to backup something from on-premise, we will have 8 options. We can backup files and folders. We can take a backup of VMware VMs. We can take a backup of Hyper-V VMs. We can take a backup of Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft SharePoint, Microsoft SQL Server, System State, and bare metal. Right. So these are the bare metal recovery. Right. So these are the 8 options we get if we say that we are trying to backup something from on-premise. Right? Files, folders, VMware VMs, Hyper-V VMs, Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft SharePoint, SQL Server, System State, and bare metal recovery. Now, let's say first we try to backup something from Azure. If we are trying to backup something from Azure, let's say we are running multiple machines. Let's say we are running VM number 1, VM 100, let's say, which is in East US, which is in RG1. And we have, let's say, VM 200, which is in West US, which is in RG2. Let's say we have multiple machines and these machines are in different regions. So would we be able to back up both the machines in the same recovery service vault? Answer is no. Answer is no. In order to back up the machine in the recovery service vault, we need to meet a small condition. The small condition is the region of a resource, the region of the machine that we are trying to back up, and the region of a recovery service vault has to be same. The region of the recovery service vault and the region of the machine that we are trying to back up has to be same. So in first condition, recovery service vault is in East US, VM100 is in East US. Both of them are in the same region. So we would be able to do a backup. It would be possible. In second one, both of them are in different regions. Recovery service vault is in East US, VM200 is in West US. So we would not be able to do a backup. It would not be possible, right? It would not be possible. So region has to be same. Right? Now when we have here, regions are same. After that, what do we need to do? We need to define the backup policy. We need to define a backup policy. In the backup policy, first of all, we need to define whether we would like to take a backup daily or whether we would like to take a backup weekly. Right? It's a daily backup or is it a weekly backup? If it's daily, if it's weekly, then which days of week? Do we want to take a backup on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday? Right? Which days of week we would like to take a backup? After this, we need to define a time. At what time we would like to take a backup, right? 6:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., 9:30 p.m. What time we would like to take a backup? And then we need to define the retention period for how long we would like to take a backup, for how long we would like to retain that backup copy. What is a daily retention period? What is a weekly retention period? Monthly retention period? Yearly retention period? So we have to define the retention period. Right? So as per the time and the date or the days that we will be defining in the backup policy, it will be taking a backup on that particular time. Right? It will be taking the backup on that particular time. Right? And let's say if something goes wrong to VM100, we would be able to use that backup copy and we would be able to get the machine up and running. Right? If something goes wrong to it, then we would be able to use the backup copy and we would be able to get the machines up and running. Any questions, any queries, guys, regarding this backup? Okay. Now let's say we are trying to back up something from on-premise. Maybe let's say we are trying to back up files and folders from on-premise, right? So let's say we have an on-premise. Now let me show you how does recovery service vault look like. So let me log into my Azure account here. So if we go here, we can just type recovery service vault, right? So when we type recovery service vault, we can see a recovery service vault here. Let's say we have a services recovery service vault. We can click on this. When we go to the recovery service vault at the top, we will see two options. Do we want to do a backup or do we want to do a site recovery? Let's say we are trying to do a backup. So when we say we are trying to do a backup, it says, hey, where is your workload running? Are you trying to back up something from Azure or are you trying to back up something from on-premise? Azure Stack Hub and HCI option is also there. So if we say we are trying to back up something from Azure, we get four options: VMs, file share, SQL Server in Azure VM, SAP and in Azure VM. If we say that we are trying to back up something from on-prem, it will give us these options, right? Now, let's say we are trying to back up something from on-premise, right? Let's say we are trying to back up something from on-premise. Maybe let's say I have an on-premise machine and we are trying to back up files and folders from on-premise. Let's say we are trying to back up files and folders from on-premise. So what do we need to do? See, let's say we are trying to back up files and folders. Maybe you can consider your laptop. You are trying to back up something from your laptop, files and folders from your laptop, right? Or I can consider VM200. This VM200 that we have created, we can consider this as a on-premise machine, and we are trying to back up something from here, on-premise machine. So in order to back up files and folders from on-premise machine, we need to install an agent. We need to install an agent. The name of the agent is Mars agent. The name of the agent is Mars agent. Mars stands for Microsoft Azure Recovery Service Agent. So it stands for Microsoft Azure Recovery Service Agent. So where do we need to install the Mars agent? We need to install the Mars agent on that machine from where we are trying to back up files and folder, on that on-premise machine from where we are trying to back up files and folder, right? So how do we get this Mars agent? Question is, how do we get this Mars agent? When we go here, when we go to the recovery service vault, we can simply go to the recovery service vault. When we go to the recovery service vault, we can choose here. We are trying to back up something from on-premise. When we choose on-premise, here, what do we want to back up? Let's say we want to back up files and folder. I will select files and folder. And I will say prepare infrastructure. When we click on prepare infrastructure, now point number 1 is it says install recovery service agent. This is the link to download the agent, right? It is the link to download the agent. Which agent? Mars agent. So basically we can download Mars agent from here, right? We would be able to download the Mars agent from here. Okay. So after downloading and installing the Mars agent, so let's say once the Mars agent is installed, what do we need to do? After installing the Mars agent on the on-premise machine, we need to register the machine. Which machine? We need to register the on-premise machine, that is VM number 200 in our case, with recovery service vault, right? So we need to register that machine with the recovery service vault. See, we have installed the agent on the on-premise machine, but how will on-premise machine come to know to which recovery service vault in Azure I need to send the data? Maybe in Azure, we may have 5 recovery service vault, right? Or I may have multiple subscriptions, and different subscriptions, I may have different recovery service vault. So to which recovery service vault in Azure it need to send the data? How will it come to know? So for that, we need to register the machine with the recovery service vault, right? We need to register the machine with the recovery service vault. And how do we register the machine with recovery service vault? So in order to register the machine with recovery service vault, we need vault credential file. We need something called as vault credential file. So basically, with the help of this vault credential file, we would be able to register the machine with recovery service vault. We need vault credential file. Now, question is from where we will get this vault credential file. See, we went to the here, right? We went here when we said we would like to back up something from on-premise. We want to back up files and folder. We clicked on prepare infrastructure. The first step was to download and install the agent, right? From here, from this link, we can get the agent and then we can install the agent. Step number 2 is download vault credential file to register the server to the vault. So if you just check this box that I have already downloaded the Mars agent, it gives you an option to download the vault credential file. So from here, we would be able to get the vault credential file. And after getting this vault credential file, we would be able to register the machine with recovery service vault, right? We would be able to register the machine with recovery service vault. Any question, any query, anything, guys? So once the registration will be done, then you can select. Then again, here also you can define the backup policy. Right here also you can define the backup policy, means which files and folders you would like to backup, which specific files and folder you would like to take backup, right? On how do you want to take a backup, daily, or do you want to take a weekly backup, right? What time you would like to take a backup, for how long you would like to retain the backup. So you would be able to define the backup policy. You would be able to define the backup policy, right? And accordingly, it will be backing up things. So that's how we would be able to back up files and folder from the on-premise machine. Any questions, any queries, anything, guys, before we jump forward?
This backup policy is defined at Azure level, right?
No. On from this tool. See, when you install this Mars agent, it is nothing but a tool. It's nothing but a small application which is installed in your on-premise machine, which is acting like a tool. In this tool, we will be defining this.
Achha. Oh, so in that it will be available, all these options.
Yeah, in that all these options will be coming.
Got it.
Okay. Now, there are some major limitations of this tool. There are some limitations of Mars agent. Right. So what are the limitations of Mars agent? It has got some limitations. For example, first limitation is it cannot back up the Linux workloads. So it would not be able to back up the Linux workloads. Second, it cannot take the application aware backup. It can only back up files and folder. Application aware backup cannot be taken. Third, it does not provide the backup granularity. It does not provide the backup granularity, right? So these are some major limitations of this Mars agent. So first of all, if we have Linux machines, we would not be able to take a backup of the Linux machines. Second, it's just able to back up files and folder. If we want to take an application aware backup, we would not be able to do so. So application aware backup, we would not be able to take, right? Third is it does not provide the backup granularity. These are some limitations of the Mars agent. Right? These are some limitations of the Mars agent. Now, how can we overcome these limitations? So there is something called as MABS. MABS stands for Microsoft Azure Backup Server. So we can overcome these limitations with the help of maps. MAP stands for Microsoft Azure Backup Server. So for example, let's say we have some on-premise machines. These are some on-prem servers. It is also an on-premise server. Okay. So let's say it's a Windows server. It's a Linux server. It is also a Linux server, right? And this one is Windows Server with 2016 or 2019 operating system, right? So these are all on-premise machines, on-premise servers. Now, this machine on which we have deployed Windows Server 2016 or 2019, we can deploy the maps rule. So the on-premise server on which we will deploy the maps rule, this on-premise server will start acting like a on-prem backup server. Now this is acting like an on-premise backup server. And the backup of other on-premise machines, the backup of other on-premise server, we would be able to take into this server. Right? The backup of other on-premise servers, we would be able to take in this on-premise backup server. So this is what we can refer as disk to disk backup for local copies. Right? This is disk to disk backup for local copies. And backup of this on-premise backup server, we can take it into cloud. Where in cloud? In recovery service vault. So this will be referred as disk to cloud, right? This will be referred as disk to cloud for long-term retention. Right? So this is the on-premise backup server we can make. See, whatever was the major limitations of Mars agent, we would be able to overcome with the help of this maps. So first of all, with the help of this maps, we would be able to back up the Linux workloads. With the help of this maps, we would be able to take the application aware backup. With the help of this maps, we would be able to take the backup granularity. We would be able to provide the backup granularity as well. How can we get this maps? See, when we go to on-premise, and then we say we want to back up something, apart from this files and folder, and apart from the system state backup, right? Only these two options. Apart from files and folder, and apart from system state backup, if we want to take a backup of any other resource, maybe we want to take a backup of Hyper-V virtual machine, or VMware virtual machine, or SQL Server, or SharePoint, or Exchange, or bare metal recovery, we need to use maps. Say I want to back up like Hyper-V VMs. So if I select Hyper-V VMs and if I click on prepare infrastructure, it will give me an option to install Microsoft Azure Backup Server. It gives me this link as well, right? I can simply go to this link. So when I go to this link, that is a link to download maps. In order to download maps role, we need to download 8 files. One is the exe file, 7 are the bin files, right? And when we run that exe file, basically it extracts files from the bin files, right? Okay, so basically we need to get these 8 files. Okay, So let's see how we would be able to do this. So if we just scroll down a bit, we can see Microsoft Azure Backup Server version 3. It says Microsoft Azure Backup provides backup for application workloads like SQL Server, Hyper-V, VMware, SharePoint, Exchange, Windows Client with support for both disk-to-disk backup for local copies and disk to cloud backup for long-term retention. Right? How can we get this? What are the system requirements? See, if we have a look, see where can we deploy this? So these are the 8 files I was talking about. We need to download these 8 files. In total, it will be around 4.2 GB of download. The file size will be 4.2 GB, right? So it says Microsoft Azure Backup can protect application workloads like Hyper-V, SQL Server, SharePoint, Exchange, so and so. Right? Where can we deploy this? We can deploy this on a physical standalone server. We can deploy this on a Hyper-V virtual machine, on a VMware virtual machine. We can deploy this on an Azure virtual machine as well. And in order to deploy this, we need to meet some system requirements. So what are the system requirements? It has to be a Windows Server 2019 or 2016 operating system. Minimum processor should be 1 gigahertz dual core. Recommended is 2.33 gigahertz quad core. Minimum RAM should be 8 GB. Recommended is 10 GB. Hard drive space should be so and so. And these are the install instructions. So here it should have Windows.NET 3.5, .NET 3.5 with Service Pack 1 and so on. So how can I download this now? I just need to click on this download button here. And it will give me the 8 files. So these are all 8 files. One is the exe file. These are other bin files. After downloading these 8 files, we just need to click on this exe file. And it will start extracting files from the bin files. And on the on-premise server where we will deploy this, that on-premise server will become the map server, right? That on-premise server will become the maps server. Any question, any query, guys, before we move forward?
So after extracting all these things, we need to copy these to on-premises server and run it there, right? For installing.
Absolutely. Just download this on the on-premise server and just click on the exe file. It will automatically start extracting files from the bin files. And the on-premise machine where you do all this activity, that will be turned out into the on-premise backup server.
Okay.
So let's see for the ASR now. Now there is something called as ASR. ASR stands for Azure Site Recovery. Right. We use this ASR for the BCDR purpose. BCDR is Business Continuity Disaster Recovery. Right? BCDR is Business Continuity Disaster Recovery. Okay. So BCDR means, now let's say we were taking the backup from the machine was running in the East US. And when we were taking the backup into the East US. What will happen when the entire East US region will go down? Right, so we are doing it for basically for the BCDR purpose. When we had the machine in the East US region, right? And the backup also we were taking in the East US region. But what will happen if in case the entire East US region will be down? Let's say we are running a critical application, and if the entire region is down, the machine will be down. We are saying that the entire Microsoft region may go down, but we cannot afford our machine to go down. It's a critical workload, right? So basically for that purpose, we can create the site recovery. If we are running a machine, let's say in East US, maybe we will try to replicate the entire machine to West US, or we will try to replicate the entire machine to South Central US, so that even if in case the machine is going down, we would not be going down. So let's say we have a recovery service vault here. RG1 is in East US, and we have a recovery service vault here. And now let's say we have two machines, VM100, which is in East US, which is in RG1, and VM200, which is in West US, which is in RG2. So can we create the site recovery of both the machines? Can we create the site recovery of both the machines? Answer is no. In order to create the site recovery, for example, the condition for the backup was, right? Condition for the backup was the region of a recovery service vault and region of a machine has to be different, right? Region of a recovery service vault and region of a machine has to be different. Condition for the site recovery is, condition for the backup was region has to be same. Machine and recovery service vault has to be in the same region. Condition for site recovery is opposite of it. The region of machine and the region of recovery service vault should be different. So in first condition, recovery service vault is in East US, VM number 100 is also in East US. So can we do a site recovery? Answer is no. We would not be able to do a site recovery, right? It is not possible. Second here, the VM200 is in West US, recovery service vault is in East US. So can we do a site recovery? Answer is yes. We would be able to do a site recovery. That would be possible. So what is our source region here? What is our source region? Source region is West US, where the machine is running, whose site recovery we would be able to do. So here VM200 is running, which is in West US. If VM200 is there, a network has to be there. Let's say VNet2 is there, it's also in West US. A resource will be there, it is also in West US, right? Then we have a RG1 where we have East US, where we have the recovery service vault, right? Now, when we will be creating a site recovery, our source region is West US. Why we are creating a site recovery? So that on a given day, if the entire West US region will be down, why we are creating a site recovery? So that on a given day, if the entire West US region will be down, we would be able to get a machine up in a different region, so that our application or our database, whatever we are hosting onto that machine, would not be down, right? Now, what we are doing, so what we need to define, we need to define the target region. When source region will be down, where the machine should be created. So guys, tell me, can my target region be West US? Is that possible?
No.
No, we are creating a site recovery so that when the West US will be down, we would be able to get a machine up in a different region. Can it be East US, same region as the region of a recovery service vault?
No, it cannot be same, right?
Sorry.
Recovery site and this one should not be same, right?
Okay. See, it can be East US. It can be the same region of a region of a recovery service vault. It should not be West US. Machine is running in West US. Can I have the target region as East US, the region of a recovery service vault? Answer is yes. We can have this. Possible. Can it be a different region other than the region of a recovery service vault? Can it be South Central US? Answer is yes, it can be South Central US as well. So it could be the same region as a region of a recovery service vault. It could be a different region other than the region of a recovery service vault, right? Other than the region of a recovery service vault, but it cannot be the same region, the region where the machine is running. It cannot be the same region where the machine is running, right? Okay. Now let's see here. Good morning, sir. Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jitin.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Okay, so basically, guys, we were discussing regarding the source region and we were discussing regarding the target region. So in source region, basically, source region was that region where the machine was running, right? And target region is that region where we are trying to create the site recovery, so that if in case source region goes down, we would be able to get the machine up in target region. So we are saying target region is South Central US, right? What happens when we do a site recovery? It try to it try to mirror everything in the target region. Means in the target region, first of all, it will create a resource group. It will give it a name RG to ASR. It creates a resource group. Then it will create a network VNet to ASR. Why it is creating a network? On an event when West US will be down, machine has to come up in South Central US. When a machine will be coming up in South Central US, it will be needing a network. That is the reason it is creating a network here, right? South Central US, right? And let's say if this VNet number 2 is 10.1.0.0/16, it will have the same network here, same range it will use here, right? So whatever network we are running in the source region, same network will be created in the target region. Then it will create a cache storage account. And it creates this cache storage account in the same region where the machine is running, that is in the West US region. Machine is running in the West US region, it creates a cache storage account in the West US region. And finally, it creates a replica managed disk. It creates that in South Central US, the target region. Right? It creates a replica managed. So what happens is we are running VM number 200 in the West US region, right? So if we are running VM number 200 in West US region, what we will be doing, we will be replicating whatever changes we'll be doing to VM number 200 will be replicated here to this cache storage account. They both are in the same region. They both are in the West US region. So whatever changes we do to VM 200, it will be replicated to cache storage account. From this cache storage account, it will be replicated to this replica managed disk, right? From this storage account, it will be replicated to this replica managed disk, right? So we have everything available in this replica managed disk. Whatever is running in VM 200, the entire disk is available
You
here.
can't hear.
Guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So basically, I was saying whatever we are running into this VM 200 gets replicated to this cache storage account. And from this cache storage account, everything gets replicated to this replica managed disk. Okay. So whatever is running onto this machine we are having that in the managed disk here. And it's continuously replicating. So let's say if you do some changes here, it will be replicated here. It's continuously replicating as well. Now, in case of an event, now let's say the West US region goes down. If West US will be down, VM 200 will be down, right? Machine will be down. In case of an event, when the entire region will be down, machine will be down. What do? We initiate a failover. So what do we do now? We will initiate a failover. We are failing over. When we initiate a failover, VM 200 ASR will be created in South Central US. Right? So when we initiate a failover, VM 200 ASR will be created in South Central US. And how it will be created? Basically, it will use this managed disk. With the help of this managed disk, we would be able to create VM 200 ASR in South Central US. So whatever application was running in VM 200 would be now running into this VM 200 ASR. The entire region is down, but our machine is up. our application is up. As a result of that, our business solution is okay. Any question, any query, anything so far?
Then is it that entire VM and whatever configuration is there that gets replicated here
Absolutely.
from the source to destination?
The source of the section. Absolutely. With the help of this replica managers, you would be able to get everything there. Same.
So this replica managed set will have the entire copy of that here. Huh?
Entire copy. Absolutely. The entire replication. This replication is continuously happening.
Yeah. So it will be
Or
a replica of that basically
it will
from
be
the
a
source.
replica. It will be a replica from the source. Although this replica is continuously happening, it is asynchronous in nature. It is
Okay.
asynchronous. Let's say if you are doing a change here in VM200, that change may take up to 15 minutes. So usually it takes around 15 minutes, but Microsoft do not guarantees any SLA. It could be more, it could be less, depending upon what kind of a change and how much change you are doing. So usually if you do a change here in VM200, it will take around 15 minutes to be replicated. But yeah, it's continuously replicated.
Okay. So sometimes there may be a delay of 15 minutes then in case of a disaster.
No, see delay. Now let's say you did a change here, right? See, every time we do not make a change to the application, right? Every now and then we are not making a change. Let's say we did a change at 9 a.m. So here you will get a change at 9:15 a.m. Right? At 9:20, if the region went down, you already have the change here. Now let's say you again did a change at 10 a.m. Usually we don't do these changes so often. Now let's say the region went down at 10 a.m. or 10:05 a.m. You would still be able to initiate a failover within a minute or two. But when you will be initiating a failover, you would be able to get this copy, the copy that we have at 9:15 a.m.
Generally, these databases and all, there will be continuous writing of data, right?
See, database works on a different method. Database works on a different technology. There also, it is asynchronous. There also, it is asynchronous. To a certain series, it is asynchronous. Right?
So generally, we will have all those resources, no? Generally in a site.
I'm sorry, we will have.
Generally in a production setup, we will have everything, right, including databases.
Absolutely, we will
Everything
have
is
everything.
right.
See, for databases in Azure, we have different technologies. In databases in Azure, we can use, so databases, we have PaaS services. Just like we discussed for the storage account, we can follow LRS, GRS, ZRS. That's how we would be able to replicate. We don't need to create the site recovery for the databases. See, in on-premise, those options was not available. But in Azure, you
So
can use the PaaS services,
site recovery is basically for the machines,
mostly for the machines. Right?
mostly for the machines.
Mostly for the IaaS services. If you are running your SQL server, and inside the SQL server, you are running a SQL database, right? Now there can be two conditions. Either you are using it as IaaS or you are using it as PaaS. If you are using it as a PaaS, you don't need to set up this. If you are
It's only
using
for
it as
the
IaaS, you have to set up this.
So if you are exclusively managing all the machines yourself, then you have to set up this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it.
Any questions, any queries, guys? Like that is all for mine for today. If you have any questions, any queries, please